Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Maintenance Community webinars. My name is Joanne. I'm one of the community admins for the Maintenance Community by Upkeep. Here we have with you today is Lorena. She's going to be presenting on the New Age resume with Skillcat. So we're super excited here. But just before we get started, just have a few housekeeping notes to let you all know. So you'll notice that your audio and chat are not on, audio and video are not on. So you'll have the chat bar on the right-hand side here for you to ask any questions you may have. If you have any throughout the entire presentation, we'll go ahead and answer them at the end of the presentation. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Lorena to get us started.
All right, thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to thank Upkeep and the maintenance community for having me here to speak. And start off by saying that I was sick last week, so I apologize if my voice kind of gives out. It's not great for a webinar, but we'll make do. So just a little info about myself, and then I'll kind of start with this New Edge resume. The way we're going to kind of go through it is we'll kind of go through this thinking and mindset as someone, looking to get hired, and then we'll kind of go through it as a company hiring and kind of think of pros and cons for both of the sides. And then at the end, I kind of have some simulations and new tools and new ways to kind of view how we can sell ourselves and our skills, and how we can assess these skills if we're a company, and how we can use it to get, good employees. So just to start off, my name is Lorena Milirons. I actually come from mechanical engineering, HVAC design industry. So I did HVAC design for 7 years. I did that in a commercial setting for building applications, hospitality, things like that. And so, I've been around a lot of these skilled trades, worked with them, been in the field. So I, found an opportunity with Skillcat to kind of take that knowledge and help them kind of like launch this awesome idea. So thanks for having me here. So let's get started. So the New Edge resume. So pretty basic at first. I'm going to go through everything we already do, some pros and cons of it. We can look at it in different mindsets, and then we're really going to get to like the new way to assess, to engage, to hire, or to get hired. Okay, let's get started. So New Age resume. This has been here forever. I'm sure everybody has stories of maybe making their first resumes. This is great if you have a lot to put on there. If it's your first one, not so great. I remember my first one, and it took me forever because all I saw was just white blank spaces. So, while this is a great tool for an employee to kind of look at it and really see that timeline of your career life on paper, for a lot of people who are trying to get that first job or maybe start in a new industry, whether it be maintenance, whether it be any skill trade, it can be really hard to kind of take that first leap and really draft up a really good resume that you're even yourself are proud of, right? Sometimes you want to not leave something on there necessarily because you think it doesn't have much to do with where you want to be. So resume, pros and cons. I'd say a pro is, like I said, if you have a lot of experience, it's great to kind of fill out and show people and give someone that, a little digest of your timeline. And then a con would be if you don't have any experience, really hard to fill up, and maybe it shows your current interest, but it doesn't show maybe where you want to be. All right. Social networking. So kind of like a resume, social networking has been here a while now. I know it's kind of transformed in a lot of ways. And I know LinkedIn can do a lot more. This is just one example, but just with a social networking mindset, if you really think about some of these applications, they're really catered to a specific profession, or, there's a lot of them out there. So a lot of them they're not all inclusive. A lot of them charge, so they're not all accessible. So sometimes when we look into social networking, the way they try to sell our skills and our trades, and how they want us to put our information down, it reads like a virtual resume. It's kind of the same thing. So if you go on someone's page, maybe you want to start a social networking profile and maybe you want to kind of get your name out there, well, you might have the same con as a resume. You might look at it and go into your skills and your experience and be like, oh man, I wish I could, put more, I want to do more. This is the whole point of me wanting to get a job. So if you're looking to get hired, social networking sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming to also fill out just like a resume. So I would say that's a con. A pro is that you can kind of link around, look at how colleagues are maybe adding skills and how they're kind of selling themselves as this worker or employee for hire. So social networking, like I said, it has a lot of pros, but if you think about it in the sense of just your profile and showing your past experience, it can get a very daunting, just like a resume can. Work samples and portfolios. So a lot of us in the skill trade know that work samples and portfolios, for us, we're just kind of like, how do I do that? Do I bring a piece of equipment? Do I kind of troubleshoot it while I'm interviewing with someone? Do we talk through the steps? So, well, work samples and portfolios are great when you have something to show. Maybe it is a collection of certificates, but maybe you're not an illustrator with the 20 pictures of your past works, right? We have trades, we have skills, and they're really hard to kind of like harness on paper or in a portfolio or in a work sample kind of way. So thinking of portfolios and work samples to kind of stand out is very overwhelming for the skill trade. I mean, I can't bring a compressor to my next job and kind of fix it up next to my employer unless we do like on the field training or, some sort of different style of interview, which can take up a lot of time. All right. So how does this relate to the skill trade industry? So it really doesn't. Resumes, I don't think, were made with the mindset of they were not made around skill trade workers. They were not made around those type of jobs. And also social media, it was made more based on perhaps people you met in school, that connection. But if you don't have any, right, if you're trying to break into the industry, if you don't know an employee from a certain company you're trying to get hired, it's a good way to kind of reach out. But where do you start? How can you show them your merits? It's kind of like what we're going through. So let's kind of go back to the beginning in the New Age resume. So let's go back to the resume. As a company, let's go think through it as a company. So I'm a company, I get someone's resume, right? And okay, he worked 2 years at this company. All right, so how do I know if those 2 years match the 2-year technician, skilled trade worker at my current company? You don't, right? You don't have like a baseline. An apprentice or, a helper in one company might not have been this trained, maybe didn't have as much access to training as you provide, or maybe you provide less access to training. So there's really a disparity between the job experience that you kind of read in a resume. And so that's ultimately what leads to an interview. So resumes for the skilled trade are a little tricky because even if someone does have their past experience written down on paper, now, while that's a great tool to kind of foreshadow and know some of that like timeline history, we still don't get a good gauge of how much knowledge they actually have. So that's just something to think about from a company point of view, that maybe who worked at a company that trained so much, you learned so much the first 2 years, you feel like you're a 10-year veteran, or, you just feel like you got so much hands-on experience and you're ready to take on something else. And maybe that company's like, oh man, 2 years. And they're like comparing you to their 2-year hires. And they're like, well, that's still like entry, I don't know. So it can also work against you if you do have more skills and maybe the time doesn't line up. Maybe you're a quick learner. So that's just something to think of in a company. Social networking. So as a company, when I go When I'm looking to hire, maybe my type of employee doesn't live in this social networking area, in this particular space. That could be for multiple reasons. It could be because it's not catered towards them, which we talked about as a pro for a user. It could be that it doesn't really highlight what they know, which is also something we talked about. So just because I'm looking to hire someone and they don't have a social networking site that I might prefer, it doesn't mean that they're not well into maybe with connections or with their certificates or with their experience. So, social networking sometimes doesn't reach out as well to skilled trade workers, and we can't really ask that of all of them. It's not accessible. So that's just my 2 bits on that. And then work samples. And this kind of touches base to like a resume, whether someone does provide a certificate for a trade school, like those are really helpful, especially if you know the trade school. And if they have a lot of great feedback, maybe people you've hired before from it, certainly those are very helpful. But then there's also, sometimes some work samples that you do during your interviews that really take a lot of time, and maybe you do them manually, maybe you do them verbally as like a round 1. And so really that hiring process becomes step 1, step 2, step 3. It becomes really lengthened. And so while work samples, are obviously always a great idea, a lot of times it's not available, perhaps in the funding. Maybe you don't have an employee that just hires. Maybe you don't have that much capability of kind of going through and giving work samples out, or going through and taking somebody into the field and kind of giving them that first try and really seeing what they know. So how can we kind of save money and save time on items like that? All right. So what are ways we currently evaluate candidates, whether it's apprentice, technician, senior, junior? So if you guys want to write in the chat, maybe some ways that you have been evaluated, maybe on the job, or ways that you have evaluated candidates. And maybe outside the box, or inside the box, we could say resumes, or we could say work samples. But what are some different ways, maybe out of the box ways, that some of us have been evaluated?
We got one response from William. Says they evaluate him on types of equipment they have experience with.
Okay, great. So maybe list off some equipment you've used. And so that's awesome. Certainly kind of what you've been exposed to, and that kind of maybe gauges how much you in the field, how much you know based on maybe how much equipment you know. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, and then another one from Ahmed here. A resume is always the first level, but when they interview a person, they like to see passion and interest in the job.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I love that. Yeah, so kind of more of people's motivation, soft skills, and kind of past that, right? Because sometimes it's fairly easier maybe to hire for an apprentice level, but you're okay, I need certain qualifications. I need someone to show up on time. I need that team player. So I need some of those different kind of skills that maybe we can evaluate them past experience. So awesome.
Yeah, and then one more here from Z. He says through case studies or different scenarios.
Okay, awesome. Yep, case studies are great. That kind of brings that okay, interview one-on-one, what can we do? How can we fix this? What would you do? Walk me through that process. So definitely, if we can't get in the field in there and we can't fix a problem, right? What's the next step? And so talking through that is a great, awesome. Thank you guys for that. Those are great ways to evaluate candidates. All right. So what do we assess when we're doing these kind of like interviews? So a couple things, right? We're looking at mechanical skills, right? Especially if it's an experienced job, whether it's in maintenance, HVAC, plumbing, it's like, all right, what skills do they already have? How can I get them? Are they junior? Are they more senior, right? So we're assessing skills. We're assessing safety, are they have been trained in basic safety? Do they have safety certifications? Do I need to go through that with them? And then soft skills, like you guys said, is this someone that can, maybe if they do talk to customers, if it's more of like a residential setting, can I count them to be on time, there at the right time? So these are some points that we like to assess, these like 3 basic groups. And maybe we can add some to them. We can talk through them later, but certainly these 3 we like to assess and make sure, depending on some more than others, depending on the level that we're hiring. So this is just something to note, this, and even when you're looking to get hired, you're like, how can I show off my mechanical skills? How can I show off my soft skills? How can I show that I already know basic safety procedures? How do I know that they can like trust me on the job without having to maybe give me like a long trial period or anything like that? So these are things that we should think of both ways when hiring, and then what we should highlight when we're trying to get hired. All right. So a couple new ways that we have are mechanical aptitude tests. So these can be given through multiple forms. And it's really important. I would say the bottom line for a mechanical aptitude test is, whichever mechanical aptitude test you give, you always need to have a baseline. This kind of goes back to when you have experience on a resume, right? So if you're hiring someone and they take a mechanical aptitude test and they give you this score, right? So how can you compare that? You really can't just looking at it, right? You need feedback. You need other cases. You need your own employees to take them. You want to have baselines like, oh, so-and-so is clearly a level 5 or a 5-year experience. So I know if he takes this test and his score is someone, who tests around that, maybe has that similar, or I have a 2-year, someone 2-year, or I just hired someone from 1 year and this is how they're scoring. So you should always have like a baseline, just a comparison to help you kind of understand the mechanical aptitude test. And that way you can kind of compare and contrast with the scores and not necessarily what the score is out of. So really quick, I'm going to jump into this simulation and just kind of show you the mechanical aptitude test, and then we can kind of jump on to the next one. Let me switch my screens. All right, so in this simulation, the objective is, this is the customer one, I'm sorry. Right here. All right, so this is the mechanical aptitude simulation. So in the simulation, we've got general instructions, we've got setup drawings, we've got tools, and then we've got some information about tools. So we pretty much have all the information that someone would need in this mechanical aptitude, and then it's kind of up to you on like how much information you need or how fast you can get it done. So I won't do this whole thing, but let's just kind of go through it really quickly and kind of show you like the basics and maybe like what it would gauge, and then how you can show your skills using this as well. All right, so read all the instructions before starting. The main objective is to take this piping apart in the correct order with the correct tools. Then we have safety glasses and gloves that we need to put on. And then it's just telling you that you also have a setup drawing, and then you have tools, and then you can kind of see your tools and kind of make sure you use them correctly. So let's just go to next, and it's just going to walk me through all of those. And certainly if I was doing this, I would have read through it, and I have a couple times. All right, so first things first, safety. So I'm going to put my gloves and glasses on, And I'll give you guys a link to this if you want to play around with it. It's kind of fun. You can also kind of do competitions and stuff with it. So it's a fun game. All right. So let's say we want to start with this section of pipe. And so like the direction said, we're trying to break apart these pieces of pipe. And let's start with my toolbox. So here I've got my tools. All right. And so I've got my options here. Let's see. Oh, nope, it's not working. Uh-oh, I didn't check the right size. So you can come here and let's see. Let's go to my instructions. All right. Drawing setup. Okay, so I clicked C. And if we go to C, we can see it was a hex, and then it gives me the size and then the quantity. All right, so if I go down, and like I said, this is just like a little bit more information. So if we go here to kind of match the size, oh, okay, I needed a bigger one. So if we go back here, I can go ahead and put this tool away. And I can go again and get the bigger one. So it won't leave you standing. You have all the directions and everything you need to kind of finish. So awesome. So it's telling me. And so I can kind of go through this. Let me get this one off. And so the way you kind of get scored is you get scored for attention to detail. So safety goggles, putting that in, reading the directions, and then also kind of, it's timed. That's just for you to know. Let's take this one away next. All right. There we go. Continue. Uh-oh, it's not working. Wonder if I got the wrong size. I can put it in here. And we can go back to our instructions, tool setups. You can go and look at A. So I've got 8. Right. And then you can even kind of, if you can try the other one, or you can come here and kind of look, okay, 8, I need a number 2. All right, cool. Seems to be the right one. Awesome. So let's take a few screws away. So as you can see, it's nothing tricky. It's great for entry level, making sure someone completes it. Like I said, you can do it within your current employees as a fun game, or you yourself can do it and kind of share your score with companies and kind of show them, maybe you're trying to break into the maintenance community or really any skill trade community, and kind of show that you can have like a gauge of what to do next. Let me take out the other one really quickly, just so we can just see one more step. So any questions so far about this? We'll move on to the next one in a minute.
No questions so far. I did have a question for you though. Are all of these like simulations or trainings, are they available online, and are they free?
Yes, all of these are available. These simulations are free at skillcatapp.com, and so is the training. Currently we have HVAC, plumbing, we're adding, we have some maintenance, we're adding more maintenance, we're adding more of everything. So every month we kind of upload more courses, more simulations. It's just a great way to learn. And so we're really happy about adding it. And we'd love feedback. If you go there for something and it's not on there, please email me and let me know. I'll give you my information later. But we love feedback. It just helps us know that what we're doing is kind of close to what everybody in the community needs, and that's what we want to do at the end of the day.
That's awesome. I'll go ahead. I already shared the link in the chat, and I'll also share this link in our Slack group within our HVAC channel. So yeah, this is super cool stuff. So thank you for sharing.
Awesome. All right. well, I'm going to go ahead and finish up with this one. So you can keep going through and you can keep kind of disassembling all these pipe systems. So that's how that one works. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so this is part of our courses. These are ways that you can kind of show companies, hey, so maybe I don't have any experience, but I know how to wire an AC circuit, or I know how to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like, or maybe it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't know anything, but I went and I learned and I took some courses. Here they are. Like, I'm already showing you initiative. I'm showing you that I really want this, and that I won't be there on the day one on the job, kind of not knowing terms, or I'll know my way around because I've kind of been in this. And then also, if you are experienced, you can also test out of some courses and then show them to your company. Just say, look, I tested out of these. I got 100 on them. I knew them. I know this. This is kind of like where I'm at in my skill level. So a lot of options to do. These simulations are great. I know, we have courses where it's a lot of videos and words, and you can't get around them, right? There's some material that you just need to kind of get drilled into your brain. But also it's really nice to have just simulations and a breath of fresh air, and also kind of see equipment in a way that's maybe not diagrammatical, like down here, right? It's more like every day. So when you're in the field, you can really get a good idea of what something's going to look like. And you're not really like lost on like, oh, wait, I learned how to circuit that, but it was more kind of like in theory than using actual equipment. So this is just one way how we can kind of go through, and I'll just kind of click around. So you've got directions up here if you ever get lost. And in the other simulation, I didn't show you, but it also had, it didn't show you what to do next. You had to click on it, the hint, and then it would like appear. So you won't necessarily ever, feel like you're just stuck on a simulation. It'll like let you keep going. So it's kind of telling you, it's like, okay, so congrats. So we did neutral, and then it's like, all right, now connect the hot wires. So we kind of go through this process. And this is less of like a simulation, and this is more of like a course. And so it's out to teach you and teach you a concept, many different concepts. And these these are basic, but we also are starting our advanced level. So we have more complex equipment, systems. And so these range from difficulty level. So you kind of go through and you're wiring them all. So this is an awesome tool, if not for yourself just to learn, but just for a way to kind of show what you have, what knowledge you already have. All right, so that's just like a simple wiring simulation. All right, and let's jump over right here. Okay, so a lot of the jobs that we're hiring for, or that we want to get hired for, have a lot of customer interaction, right? Soft skills are so important. There's really no way around not learning soft skills, whether you naturally have them, maybe you don't, and you just need to like work on that, or maybe you weren't aware of some ways that we can have like better interactions with customers. It's kind of hard to like, unless you videotape yourself, it's kind of hard to kind of know how you are as like a third person looking at it, maybe in like a certain situation. Maybe this customer is like really stressed and it's rubbing off on you. It's kind of hard to to stay that even keen, but we have to working with customers, and customers always right. So just kind of like practicing that and getting a gauge of that is like really important. So we actually created a customer interaction simulation. So let's go. So in the simulation, you're an HVAC tech visiting a customer's home. All right, so let's solve the problem. So this is really for any trade, right? You have a problem, you're going to a customer's house and you need it fixed. And so we can check out our profile, read the work order, and then start the call. So here you kind of go through, all right, I'm a third-year apprentice, residential, 25 years, experience 2 years, my certifications. Okay, that's kind of like where I'm at. Open work order. All right, so not happy customer, air conditioning not working. So anytime someone calls you, they're probably not happy because something's not working. So we've got, let's see, we've got a residential split system, maintenance call, no need to call the customer, go straight to the residence at the time of the appointment. Don't ring the doorbell, just knock the door. Details are very important. Scheduled time, let's see, 8:30. And it's 21 minutes away with traffic, all right? So we better leave sometime around 8. Kind of go through here. And so this customer interaction also kind of goes into like presentation. Should I go and have all my piercings? Should I go and just wear like a crazy hat, or should I wear my work hat? Let's see, should I wear a tucked in black shirt? Should I wear a golf shirt? This is just to kind of like have fun with it, really engage whoever's taking this, and just make it a little bit more personalized. So I'm going to go with a tucked in company tee. And for my bottoms, I don't want to wear pants. I will sweat myself to death in construction jeans. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to go with work boots because I think steel toe boots are overkill. All right. So let's proceed to the call. All right. So this is kind of where, yes, you can use your memory, or you can go back to the work order right here. And so I'm going to leave at 8 o'clock because we know it was 21 minutes traffic. And so choose your parking spot. So this is a way to kind of just like gauge, all right, do we know that we shouldn't park at our neighbor's house, right? This is a customer's house. Do we know that we shouldn't really park in their driveway in case they're coming back home? They have a second car that comes in. We don't want to block them in. So I'm going to pick this spot right here. All right. And then it kind of takes you into, all right, what should we take to the customer's house? You know, should I take everything with me and kind of just like unload at their front door? Or maybe I should just take my diagnostic bag and my business cards at first. And then after that, so we won't go through this whole thing, but after that, it's kind of like it's almost like a game in the sense that depending on what you put, they'll say something different, right? And your goal is to make them happy. Your goal is to kind of fix the problem. So you'll kind of, knock the door. They told me not to ring the doorbell. Maybe they have a dog that goes ballistic, or maybe they have a baby sleeping. And so then you can kind of see where it goes. You initiate the conversation or you wait for them. And then you can kind of choose what you say. And so, yeah, so pretty neat. Different outcomes depending on what you write. So maybe I'm going to say that. And so at the end, you kind of get a test. You get a score, and it kind of shows you what you score in different scenarios, different soft skills. Let's see, can you show me where everything is so I can get right on it? We'll look into what's wrong when we do the inspection. I'd like to know more about that. Can you give me more details? So maybe we can engage her more. And so this is just like another way. This isn't a course per se. This is a way that we can kind of like assess if you wanted to take it and kind of show your soft skills, or if you were a company and wanted to provide this as maybe a training or, a fun experience. This is a great option. All right. So any questions so far?
We had one question on, is this training available in the VR environment using, I believe, goggles? So any VR technology here?
Okay, yeah, currently we do not. We've looked at, we're certainly exploring all ideas, but currently we do not have anything.
Thank you. And then one more question. Ahmed asked if the Skillcat has any training on lubrication.
Say that again?
On lubrication?
We might not have like a complete chapter on that, but I know we have like modules. So, and I know I've seen that in certain modules. So depending on like the type of equipment or the application, you can always look at our courses. You can and they're all free. You can even just look at them and take a glance at all the courses and then kind of see what chapters are kind of, or what modules are in every single course.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Certainly. All right, so I'm actually going to click through this really quick just so I can show you like the scoring, because I didn't show you that on the mechanical aptitude. So let's see. Okay, well, everything looks like it's working, but it seems to run longer and longer and can't quite get the house as comfortable as it used to be. All right, so let's see. Anything else you'd like to tell me about the unit? Let's see. Just can't think of anything in particular, but it does seem like it's a little louder. Okay. All right, so at this point, let's just get into it. I'll perform regular maintenance, check on the unit. I may make a couple of trips to the truck to grab more tools or manuals, but I'll note down any problems I notice and get back to you at the end. All right, I'm gonna go with this one. Like I said, I've taken this before, so. Okay, sounds good, she's happy. All right, congratulations. The first stage of your interaction with the customer is over. As part of the next stage of the customer call, you will diagnose the system and you'll need an interaction with the customer again in subsequent simulation. So let's see how we did in the first part. All right, cool. So it has your motive, right? Your willingness to help, attention to detail, maybe where you parked, what you brought, asking good questions. This is based on your interaction with the customer, your ability to function effectively in a workplace, maybe how you diagnosed and got to the problem, and your appearance, just like, you chose appropriate clothing. This one was for fun. I'm glad we did well on that. So our overall score is 85%, and you need to be a little bit more organized, and that has to do more with the conversation of kind of me asking her to, go on and on about maybe we shouldn't ask a customer too many questions about the problem because they don't know. They're asking us. So, all right. So those are kind of like the reports that you might get. And then we have fun leaderboards. You can also kind of log in as a company and see a leaderboard of maybe your employees or anybody that you asked to take this and kind of see how they gauge up to each other. So this is kind of fun. But yeah, so there you go. All right. All right, so let me go through. All right, and so we talked about gauging soft skills. All right, and one more thing about assessments. So assessments in themselves, in courses we have, they can be used to test candidates. You can review the scores, or you can share your Skillcat scores. There's certainly nothing stopping you from showing a company like, hey, I did a whole module on this. This is what was in the module, and this is my certificate and my score from this. So really the whole point of this is we need to show companies what we know. And whether that's through simulations, through assessments, there's got to be a better way than writing it down on a sheet of paper, some location that you worked on, and you trying to describe those 2 years in like a sentence. And so this really helps for getting interviews that you've already narrowed down to the interview, right? So you're not interviewing 200 people. You've already narrowed it down to 25. And you can kind of save that time, save that money as well. And then you can really make sure you get into that interview. You can make sure that you don't have to mess with 3 interviews in a row, right? You can make sure that you can get right to what the company is looking for, which is basically a list of skills. So if anything, our resume should just be a list of all the skills that we know that we can do in the trade. And a lot of the items that we know, we don't necessarily think to write down either. So having assessments and courses kind of help with that. And like I said, it's very important to have a baseline. So if they see that kind of like 85%, but everyone has been getting kind of 85%, then you can kind of match up like that way. All right, so yeah, really any questions? And I kind of want to go through any other courses maybe that you guys are interested in. We can kind of talk through and walk through the courses. So I also want to do that, but I can take questions first.
You can go ahead and wait a little bit for questions to come through.
Of course.
It doesn't look like that anyone has any questions, but if you want to kind of go over a different course that you want to highlight, feel free to. But right now, it doesn't seem like any questions are coming in.
Sure. So I just want to go through maintenance training right here. I apologize. All right, so let's just see a list of courses. All right, so we've got kind of like a list right here, and I'll click through a couple so we can kind of look through them. We've got some science fundamentals, some, pause a second, some mechanical skills, some electrical skills, electrical training, a wait list for plumbing fundamentals, and plumbing skills. Let me mute for 1 second, and then I'll just keep scrolling down. All right. And so really, if you look at, there's no limit to what is available.
All right, everyone. It looks like she lost connection. Just hang tight. We'll try to get her back on. Give us 1 second. Thank you. All right, it looks like she's having a little bit of trouble, but I think for the most part, she got through the entire presentation. But if you do have any questions for Lorena on the HVAC training or Skillcat, she's in our maintenance community Slack group. We actually have our channel HVAC, and so I'll be posting the link in there for the training. And then the recording of this webinar will be posted along with the slides. So we thank you for coming, and we'll see you for the rest of this week. Thank you all again.